Hey, what's up guys, I'm Clem from Clem Travelog. Welcome to my channel. Today is a special edition of Additional Knowledge. The timeline history of the state capital of Victoria in Australia, Melbourne.
Clem Travelog.
All information mentioned are based on personal research from different sources. It may contain incorrect information. Content mentioned may be offensive or disturbing to some audience. By the way, Clem Travelog doesn't own any copyright of the image used. All images are not necessarily aligned with the year of the event.
So the area of today Melbourne was occupied by the Aboriginal more than 30,000 years before the arrival of European. The Wurundjeri, Boonwurrung and Wathaurong were the three distinct language groups occupied in the area. Meanwhile, by the year of 1802, Scottish-born John Murray sailed Lady Nelson and discovered Port Phillip Bay. He named the bay Port King after the then governor of New South Wales, Philip Gidley King. 10 weeks later, after John Murray discovered Port Phillip Bay, Matthew Flinders arrived and explored the surrounding of the bay. In the following year, which was the 1803, Acting Lieutenant Charles Robbins and Surveyor General of New South Wales, Charles Grimes, discovered the Yarra River. In the same year, the first settlement was established by Colonel David Collins around Sutherland Bay in Mornington Peninsula. Unfortunately, the settlement was abandoned 5 months later due to the lack of fresh water and wood. Meanwhile, 2 years later, which was 1805, the name of Port Phillip Bay came in official to replace Port King in honor of the first governor of New South Wales, Admiral Arthur Phillip. On the 3rd of June 1835, John Batman left Rochester and landed at today Williamstown via schooner Rebecca. The landing point at today Williamstown has been chosen by John Batman as a potential settlement for Melbourne. He named it Port Howard after the captain of schooner Rebecca. On 8th of June 1835, John Batman continued north and explored Yarra River, where he found a decent spot for settlements with fresh water. He named the area Batmania, which is today Melbourne. Meanwhile, John Batman continued exploring north and met the Wurundjeri elders. They signed a historical treaty known as Batman Treaty. The treaty was a famous negotiation agreement to purchase 2,428 hectares of land from the Aboriginal for settlement. Not long after the treaty was signed, John Batman returned to Van Diemen's Land, which was the former name of today Tasmania. He formed the Port Phillip Association to settle the land in Batmania. Notable foundation members including Joseph Tice Gallivan, Charles Swanston, and John Helderidge. Unfortunately, Batman Treaty was implicitly declared void on the 26th of August 1835 by Governor of New South Wales, Richard Brooke. During the time John Batman returned to Van Diemen's Land, John Pascoe Faulkner landed in the foot of today William Street on the 30th of August 1835 via schooner Enterprise. John Batman and fellow members of the Port Phillip Bay Association only returned to Batmania a few days later on the 2nd of September 1835, and they found the John Pascoe Faulkner expedition has occupied some of the area. The two groups, John Batman and John Pascoe Faulkner, eventually agreed to cooperate in distributing the land in the area. Therefore, both John Batman and John Pascoe Faulkner were known as the founder of Melbourne. In the same year, which is 1835, Yarra River was named by John Helderidge, but mistakenly believed that Yarra was the name of the river in Boonwurrung language. In the following year, which was 1836, first interment, Child of James Goodman, was carried out at Bury Hill, which is today Flagstaff Garden. In the same year, Mount Cottrell massacre took place. The massacre involving a murdering estimate of 10 Wathaurong people near today Mount Cottrell, in retaliation for the killing of 2 European settlers, Charles Frank and Thomas Flinders. The name Melbourne came in place to replace the name Batmania by the Governor of New South Wales, Richard Brooke, in 1837. He named it after the second Viscount of Melbourne, who was also the Prime Minister of the Great Britain at the time, William Lamb. Also in the year of 1837, Surveyor General Robert Holder surveyed the area based on the sketch by Robert Russell and laid out the Holder Grid. In the same year, Old Melbourne Cemetery officially opened and a hut was built on Batman Hill as a gaol. In 1838, which was the following year, gaol on Batman Hill was burned down by an escaping Aboriginal, Tula Marina. He was the Aboriginal boy that today's suburb Tula Marine was named after. In the same year, James Hill was built in Port Howard, which is today Williamstown, as the first seaport in Victoria, as well as the founding of Melbourne Cricket Club. By the way, Melbourne's first suburb, Fitzroy, was created in 1839. known as Newtown when it was first established. In the same year, construction of the Old Melbourne Gaol started on Russell Street. Few years later, which was in 1842, Scottish-Portuguese Henry Condell was elected as the first mayor of Melbourne. After 6 years of building, construction of Old Melbourne Gaol officially complete and opened in the year of 1845. Meanwhile, 2 years later, Melbourne was declared as a city by Queen Victoria. Royal Melbourne Hospital was established in 1848. In 1851, gold was discovered in Victoria, starting the era of Melbourne Gold Rush. In the same year, Victoria became an independent colonial separate from New South Wales. Lieutenant Governor Charles Latrobe was appointed as the first Lieutenant Governor of Victoria. In the same year, iconic Her Majesty Prison Penridge in Coburg was established. Meanwhile, Black Thursday bushfire occurred in the same year that swept the state of Victoria, burning 5 hectares of land in Victoria, involving the area of Melbourne. It was believed the disaster began in the Plenty Ridge when a couple of bullocks drivers left logs burning unattended, which set fire to long dry grass affected by the recent drought. In 1852, Melbourne General Cemetery was established. In the following year, University of Melbourne was founded and Melbourne Cricket Ground was built. In 1854, Flinders Street Station opened and was known as Melbourne Terminus at the time of opening. At the same time, the first steam railway line in Australia was launched, the Sandridge Railway Line. Moreover, State Library of Victoria founded, and the first telegram in Australia was erected between Williamstown and Melbourne. Old Melbourne Cemetery was officially closed to burial in the same year as well. In 1855, Captain Sir Charles Hotham was appointed as the first Governor of Victoria, and William Hines became Victoria's first Premier when Parliament was formed. In the following year, which was 1856, stonemason won the 8 Hours Day campaign. The stonemason marched to the Parliament House in protest of their working hours. It was thereby agreed that stonemason would work an 8-hour day. The campaign placed Australia as a frontrunner of progressive labour movements and is now commemorated with the Labour Day's public holiday. In the same year, Henry Chapman brought in the bar law system of secret voting, afterward known as the Australian system and adopted by the countries all over the world. In 1857, Old Melbourne Cemetery was officially demolished to make way for the Queen Victoria Market. In the same year, Yen Yen Reservoir opened, the oldest water supply for the city of Melbourne. It was the largest artificial reservoir in the world at that time. The name Yen Yen was derived from an Aboriginal leader who signed the Batman Treaty in 1835. The Werribee Railway Line, St Kilda Railway Line, and Sandringham Railway Line were opened in the same year. In 1858, the first game of Australian rules football was played between Melbourne Grammar School and Scott College, near the current site of Melbourne Cricket Ground. In the following year, the oldest Aussie rules football club, Melbourne Football Club, nicknamed Demons, was founded by Tom Wills. It was followed by the founding of Melbourne University Football Club, nicknamed University. In the same year, Sunbury Railway Line was opened as part of Bendigo Railway Line, as well as the opening of Williamstown Railway Line. A 90-man Brook and Wills expedition, led by Robert O'Hara Boak and William John Wills, depart from Royal Park to cross Australia from Melbourne in the south to the Gulf of Carpentaria in the north, a distance of around 3,250 kilometers. Unfortunately, they never make it to the north and never returned. Both of them, Robert Burke and William Wills, died around the area of Cooper Creek in South Australia. In the same year of the departure of Burke and Wills expedition, first set of rules of Aussie rules football established by Tom Wills, along with other 6 members of Melbourne Cricket Ground. In 1860, Lilydale Railway Line commenced. First official Melbourne club was held in 1861 at Flemington Racecourse. It was won by Archer and John Cutts was a winning jockey. Meanwhile, Flemington Racecourse Railway Line was opened to connect the racecourse for the event. Aussie Rules Carlton Football Club, nicknamed Blues, was founded in 1864. By 1865, Melbourne overtook Sydney to become Australia's most popular city. In the same year, SS City of Launceston departed from Port Melbourne and collided with SS Penola and sunk in Port Phillip Bay. Aussie Rules North Melbourne Football Club, nicknamed Kangaroos, was founded in 1869 by James Henry Gardiner. In 1872, Robert McCracken founded Aussie Rules Essendon Football Club, nicknamed Bombers. In the same year, Craigieburn Railway Line commenced by stages. The first recorded incident of foot and mouth disease in Australia was in 1872 at Cobberdick's Farm in Mount Cottrell in Melbourne. In the following year, which was 1873, Aussie Rules St Kilda Football Club, nicknamed Saint, was founded by James Joseph Casey. Auxerro's South Melbourne Football Club, nicknamed Swans, was founded in 1874, and Auxerro's Footscray Football Club, nicknamed Bulldogs, was founded in the following year. Rosedown Railway Line and Pakenham Railway Line commenced in stages respectively in 1875 and 1877. The first Test cricket match between Australia and England was played in 1877 at Melbourne Cricket Ground. This year was also the first season of the Auxerro's Victorian Football Association, and Carlton Blues won the Premier. In 1880, one of the most iconic bushranger in Australia, Ned Kelly, was hanged in Old Melbourne Gaol. In the same year, Royal Exhibition Building opened and hosts Melbourne International Exhibition. It was the 8th World Fest officially recognised by the Burial International Death Exposition. It was also the first ever official World Fest in Southern Hemisphere. Frankston Railway Line commenced in stages from 1882. In 1883, First Interstate Railway completed connecting Melbourne and Albury. Aussie Roots Fitzroy Football Club was founded in 1883 as well. In the following year, Upfield Railway Line commenced in stages. In 1885, First Cable Tram Line, Richmond Tram Line, commenced in the Melbourne Cable Tramway system. Aussie Roots Richmond Football Club, nicknamed Tigers, was founded by Tom Wills. In 1887, second oldest university in Melbourne, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, was founded by Francis Ormond as Working Men's College of Melbourne. In the same year, SS Shiver was sunk in Port Phillip Bay near today Point Nepean. Meanwhile, few railway lines commenced in between 1887 and 1890. Kew Railway Line commenced in 1887. Inner Circle Railway Line and Hurstbridge Railway Line commenced in 1888. Mornington Railway Line, Belgrave Railway Line and Merinda Railway Line commenced in 1889, and Outer Circle Railway Line together with Glenveagh Railway Line commenced in 1890. By the way, in 1889, another great invention invented in Melbourne, the invention of the first electric drill in the world, credited to Arthur James Arnold and William Blanche Brain. In 1892, South Gippsland Railway Line commenced. In the same years, 50 members of Mornington football team returned from a match in Mordialloc in a small fishing vessel and sunk into Port Phillip Bay during bad weather. Only 4 bodies were discovered. This was also the year when the main R4 Seaver was constructed to connect between Spotwood and Verby. It was the largest civil engineering project undertaken in Victoria during that time. Also in 1892, Auxerro's Collingwood Football Club, nicknamed Big Pie, was founded by William Beasley. In the following year, short-lived Outer Circle Railway Line was partly closed. The remaining part converted into today Alamein Railway Line. SS Alert, a steamship sank off Cap Shank in Mornington Peninsula after encountering hurricane force southerly winds and mountain sea. Only 1 out of 16 passengers survived. 1897 was the first season of the Auxerro's Victorian Football League, with Essendon Bombers won the first season. In 1899, Granbrook Railway Line commenced from Belgrave. In 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was formed. Melbourne was chosen as the de facto capital city of Australia until 1913. In 1902, Sydney reclaimed the title from Melbourne as Australia's most popular city. In the same year, Hawthorn Football Club, nicknamed Hawks, was founded. In 1903, oil tanker SS Patriana was sunk after stuck on the reef at today Patriana Reef. This was the reason why Patriana Reef was named. It was named after this sunk vessel, SS Patriana. Meanwhile, Australian bicycle manufacturer Malvern Star was founded on Glenferrie Road in Malvern. Springvale Cemetery Railway Line was opened in the year of 1904. First Australian Open Championship was held in 1905 at Weyhouseman's Cricket Ground in St Kilda. Rodney Whitfield Heath was the first ever winner of Australian Open Men's Single. He was also the first Melbourne-born Australian to win Australian Open. Regardless as the world's first feature-length film, the 70-minute length The Story of the Kelly Gang was unprecedented when it was released in 1906. The film cost an estimate of $2,250 and was filmed in St Kilda, Eton, Greensboro, Heidelberg, Melbourne, Mitcham and Rosanna. 1907 was the year to be remembered by the Fair Work. It was a landmark Australian labour law to impose the basic of setting Australian minimum wages standard. It was known as Harvester Case due to the case heavily involved in Hugh Victor Mackay Sunshine-based Sunshine Harvester Works, the largest manufacturer of agricultural equipment at the time. Australian iconic Carlton and United Beverage was formed in 1907 by mergers of 6 existing breweries. In the same year in England, Sir Norman Everard Brooks became the first Melbourne-born Australian to win the Wimbledon Open men's single final. In 1908, which was the following year, Daniel Brandon Carroll became the first Melbourne-born Australian to win gold medals in the Olympic under Rugby Union. In the same year, Swinburne University of Technology was founded as Eastern Suburb Technical College. Arthur Deakin became the first Melbourne-born politician to become Prime Minister of Australia. He became the second Prime Minister of Australia in 1908. In the same year, Sunshine Rail disaster occurred. A passenger train ran into the back of stationary train in Sunshine, resulting in 44 people dead and 430 people injured. In 1909, the first season of Victorian soccer season, Carlton United won as champion. In 1910, notable Australian brand Bula Dairy Foods was founded in Melbourne. In 1914, one of the oldest Aussie Rules football club, Melbourne University Football Club, withdrew from VFL. This year was also the year the Commonwealth of Australia declared war on Germany and entered World War I. The declaration was made in the Parliament House in Melbourne. Australian famous supermarket company Coles was founded in the same year as well, in Collingwood. Victoria University was founded in 1916 as Footscray Technical College. In the same year, Rosstown Railway Line ceased operation. The first electric suburban train services commenced in 1919. In 1923, Australian food spread brand Vegemite was founded in Melbourne. Melbourne-born Stanley Bruce became the 8th Prime Minister of Australia in the same year. In the following year, which was 1924, Old Melbourne Gaol was officially closed. In 1927, the Federal Parliament officially moved to Canberra. In the same year, Esna Boyd became the first Melbourne-born tennis player to win Australian Open Women's Single Final. First set of traffic light in Melbourne was installed on Collins Street and Swanston Street in 1928. 1929 was the year the Great Depression began, an economic catastrophe that impacted most of the world, but particularly in Australia, with its high dependence on exports. The construction of the Shire of Remembrance completed and dedicated in 1933. Born in East Brunswick, Jean Burns became the first woman in Australia to jump from a plane with parachute in 1937. Australian National Airways Douglas DC-2 Kaima, departing from Adelaide to Melbourne, was crashed on the western slope of Mount Dandenong while Command's final approach to Exeter Airport through the heavy fog. This air disaster was happened in the year of 1938. 1940 was the year of the last cable car service. In 1943, Royal Australian Air Force aircraft Wealthy Vengeance crashed near Macquarie Railway Station after giving aerial demonstration over Flemington Racecourse. Both crew on the board were killed. In 1945, with the inspiration of traditional dumpling, dim sims was invented in Melbourne by Chinese chef William Wing Yong for his restaurant Wing Lee. Apparently, dim sim that he invented became an Australian type unique deep fried dumpling snack that you can only find in Australia. First ever Australian-made Holden cars produced at Fisherman Bend in Port Melbourne in 1948. Essendon Airport was upgraded as International Airport. Meanwhile, Francis Arthur Satchman became the first Melbourne-born tennis player to win US Open men's singles final. In 1951, Springvale Cemetery Railway Line was closed. 1954 was the year of the first Moomba Parade held. Australian-based multinational film exhibition brand Village Cinema was founded in the same year. This year was also the year of the closure of Granbrook Railway Line. With the completion of the construction of Melbourne Olympic Park Stadium in 1956, one of the world's biggest sport event, Olympic Games, held in Melbourne. By the way, Kew Railway Line was closed in the following year. In 1958, Monash University was founded. In the same year, Super Regional Shopping Mall, Cheston Shopping Mall, officially opened. One of the biggest inventions in the world was also invented in the same year in Melbourne, the Black Box Flight Recorder. It was invented in 1958 by Dr. David Warren at the Aeronautical Research Laboratories in Melbourne. Victoria's first freeway, the Mulby Bypass Road, part of today's Princess Freeway near Werribee, was officially opened in 1961. In 1962, defunct Granbrook Railway Line converted into iconic tourism steam railway, the Puffing Billy. This year was also the opening of the South Eastern Freeway, part of today's Monash Freeway. In 1964, Western Highway, part of today's Western Freeway, was first opened. La Trobe University was founded in the same year as well. In the following year, Westgate Bridge started construction. 1967 was a sad year for the whole country. Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt disappeared, presumed drowned, while swimming at Cheviot Beach near Portsea in Mornington Peninsula. This was also the year for the punishment of sentence to death in Australia came to the end, with Ronald Ryan, the last person to be executed in Australia, was hanged in Melbourne. Super Regional Shopping Mall Southland was opened in 1968. Lara and Melbourne Fringe bushfire occurred in 1969, with most areas of Truganina and Tarnak were affected by the fire. Meanwhile, the area of Hoppers Crossing were threatened as well. In 1970, Tula Marine Airport was officially opened to replace Essendon Airport as International Airport of Melbourne. Former 90,000 capacity Beverley Park Stadium was built in the same year, as well as the opening of the super regional shopping mall, Fountain Gate. Meanwhile, it was also another year of disaster, while on the 15th of October, 35 construction workers died when a span of Westgate Bridge collapsed. Westgate Freeway was officially opened in 1971. In 1972, Everett Gough Whitlam became the third Melbourne-born politician as Prime Minister of Australia. He was the 21st Prime Minister of Australia. In the same year, Mulgrave Freeway and South Gippsland Freeway were officially opened. In 1974, underground metro train City Loop construction begins. This year also the year of the founding of JB Hi-Fi as well as the Deakin University. In the following year, Malcolm Fraser became the fourth Melbourne-born politician as the Prime Minister of Australia. He served as the 22nd Prime Minister of Australia. Super Regional Shopping Centre, High Point, opened in the year of 1975. In 1977, Eastern Freeway first opened, and Westgate Bridge was officially opened in the following year. In 1978, aircraft with a crew of 2 and 1 passenger crashed into a house shortly after takeoff from Essendon Airport. 6 members from one family in the house were killed as well. In 1979, the Australian Bionic Year was the result of pioneering research commenced by Professor Graham Clark in the late 1960s in the University of Melbourne. Baker's Delight was founded in Melbourne in 1980. In sports, Alan Jones became the first Melbourne-born racer to win Formula 1 champion. Alan Davison and Josh Christopoulos were the first Melbourne-born soccerers to win the Oceanic National Cup. 2 railway lines, Inner Circle Railway Line and the Mornington Railway Line, were closed in 1981, but in the following year, City Loop Subway was opened. In 1982, Aussie Rules South Melbourne Football Club relocated to Sydney and ultimately became Sydney Swans. Melbourne dust storm occurred in the 8th of February and the Ash Wednesday fires occurred in the 16th of February respectively in 1983. In the same year, Association Football South Melbourne Football Club became the first Melbourne team to win National Soccer League. Also, adventure superstar Thor was born in this year in Melbourne. Chris Hemsworth. In 1986, car bombing outside Russell Street Police Headquarters kills 1 police officer. In the same year, construction of Rialto Towers completed and became the city's tallest building as well as the tallest building in the southern hemisphere. Also in this year, the great work of Pablo Picasso, The Weeping Woman, was stolen from National Gallery of Victoria by activists. Luckily, it was returned a week later. 1987 was also another devastating year for Melbourne with the incident of Holden Street Massacre, killing 7 people and injuring 19, and Queen Street Massacre, killing 8 people and injuring 5. In the same year, Port Melbourne and St Kilda Railway Line were converted into light railway. But in the positive side, Dean Jones became the first Melbourne-born cricketer to win the Cricket World Cup. South Eastern Freeway and Mulgrave Freeway were connected in 1988. In 1990, tram drivers across the city go on strike to attempt to implement workers' control in the tram network. In the same year, Victorian Football League officially changed to Australian Football League (AFL), with Collingwood Magpies became the first premier under AFL. In 1991, Ewan Mackenzie became the first Melbourne-born rugby player to win Rugby Union World Cup. In the following year, Melbourne Cricket Ground hosted the final game for the 1992 Cricket World Cup. Western Ring Road was first opened in stages since 1992, and Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology (RMIT) granted university status in the same year. In 1995, Melbourne became the host city for the World Police and Fire Games. Melbourne Knights became the second Melbourne-based association football club to win the National Soccer League champion. Aussie Roots Fitzroy Football Club moved to Brisbane and merged with Brisbane Bear to form Brisbane Lion. At the same period, Footscray Football Club changed its name to Western Bulldog. Port Phillip Prison in Truganina was officially opened in the same year as well. In 1997, Her Majesty Pendridge Prison in Coburg officially closed, and Super Regional Shopping Mall Water Gardens officially opened in the same year. In this year, the upgrade of Princess Highway to Princess Freeway was completed as well. Melbourne's first gambling centre, Melbourne Crown, was first opened. Melbourne Storm, one of the most decorated Australian rugby league teams, was founded in the same year. Meanwhile, 1997 Dandenong bushfire occurred in the same year, affecting the area of Ferny Creek, Kalorama, Mount Dandenong and Upwey, with 3 Sullivan Parish and 45 houses damaged. In 1999, South Gippsland Railway Line cut short to Cranbourne. Also, Southeastern Freeway renamed to Monash Freeway by then Premier of Victoria, Jeff Kennett. In the same year, just 2 years after its founding, Melbourne Storm won their first championship on the 92nd edition of NRL. South Melbourne became the first Melbourne-based association football club to compete in Oceanic Champions League. In 1999, Waverley Park was announced to be closed with no further AFL matches being played in the stadium. It was followed by a major demolition due to the status of disrepair. Docklands Stadium officially opened in the year of 2000, known as Colonial Stadium with the sponsorship of Colonial State Bank. In the same year, Domain Tunnel and Burney Tunnel were opened to connect Monash Freeway and Westgate Freeway. In 2002, Colonial Stadium renamed into Telstra Dome after the changing of the stadium's sponsorship. Melbourne-based first professional association football club, Melbourne Victory Football Club, was founded in 2004. Melbourne hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2006. In the same year, construction of Eureka Tower was completed, making it the tallest building in Melbourne and the tallest observation deck in Southern Hemisphere. In 2007, FINA Swimming World Championship were held in Melbourne. Melbourne Victory won as A-League champion on the second season of A-League. In 2008, Eastlink first opened. Mulum Tunnel and Melba Tunnel opened to connect Eastlink and Eastern Freeway. Melbourne Victory became the first Melbourne-based association football club to compete in Asian Champions League. Another devastating year in 2009 that Black Saturday bushfires around Melbourne occurred. The worst bushfires in the history of the city, costed 180 people dead. In the same year, a second Melbourne-based professional association football club, Melbourne Heart Football Club, was founded. Also, the naming rights of Telstra Dome transferred to Etihad Airways and the venue known as Etihad Stadium. In 2010, Melbourne celebrated its 175th birthday. In the same year, 30,500 capacity Melbourne Rectangular Stadium opened, known as AAMI Park due to sponsorship. Just after 2 years of the opening of AAMI Park, historical Melbourne Olympic Park Stadium, located next to AAMI Park, was demolished. In 2014, Melbourne Heart Football Club renamed to Melbourne City Football Club after a takeover by City Football Group. National Premier League (NPL) was introduced in 2014, with NPL Victoria replaced Victorian Premier League, and South Melbourne became the first club to win the NPL Victoria division. Australia hosts AFC Asian Cup for the first time in 2015. With Australian national team, the Socceroos won the 2015 edition. Ivan Franjic, Jason Davison, Matthew Leckie, Chris Hurt, Aziz Benic, Mark Briscano, and Eugene Gelokovic became the first Melbourne-born Socceroos to win the competition. In the year of 2017, 6 people were killed and 30 wounded in Bourke Street car attack in January, followed by the death of 1 person and the injury of 70 in the Flinders Street car attack in December. Major construction began in 2018 on Metro Tunnel, a 9 km underground railway tunnel through the CBD. It is the biggest public transport project since the City Loop. Etihad Stadium was renamed into Marvel Stadium after the stadium operators negotiated an 8-year deal with the Walt Disney Company. Meanwhile, Melbourne-based third professional association football club, Western United, was founded. Major industrial fire occurred in West Footscray in 2018. A warehouse was on fire and took the Metropolitan Fire Brigade several days to fully control and emitted a large plume of toxic black smoke visible across Melbourne. Construction of Westgate Tunnels commenced in the same year, a 4 km tollway to link Westgate Freeway at Yarraville with Port Melbourne and CityLink at Docklands, while twin tunnels under Yarraville. Melbourne City Football Club became the second Melbourne-based football club crowned the A-League champion in the 2020-2021 season. In 2022, Athletes Rousset, who played for Eintracht Frankfurt, became the first Melbourne-born football players to win the UEFA Europa League. In the same year, Western United became the third Melbourne-based football club to become A-League champion in the 2021-2022 season. Alright, that's it for all the timeline history until the year of 2022. Of course, all this information are based on my personal research. There might be some mistake. If you found some mistake that I made, don't be hesitant to leave a comment so that I am able to learn the proper history. Anyway, I'm Clem from Clem Trav Vlog. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click the like, subscribe my channel, and share it out. Goodbye!